Hello. Sorry for the delay. It was a bit of a struggle getting started. But here we are, and I am ready to start. So, welcome to this YouTube live stream. Um, I'm going to be talking about the online courses that I have on my website, and also the upcoming cohort that we'll be doing, which will involve working through the online course material together. So first of all, my name is Alex. I'm a movement therapist and mobility specialist. I've trained martial arts all my life. I'm a shiatsu therapist with over 20 years experience. I've been practicing natural movement training and mobility training modalities like parkour, natural movement, MoveNat, and FRC for over a decade. These practices have all contributed to inspiring the online courses that I've put together. Um, there are now 2 online courses available. I have the Meridian Stretching online course and the Ukemi Foundations online course. So I put together the Ukemi Foundations course first, but all of my courses are meant to improve flexibility and help prevent injuries and improve your freedom of movement. So the Ukemi Foundations course is about learning the practical skills of falling safely. So that means break falls and rolls mainly, and also conditioning drills that are meant to build up the ability to do those techniques. So those conditioning drills mostly focus on strengthening our ability to support ourselves on a single leg, so single leg strength, and that culminates in kind of a pistol squat as the ultimate single leg strength technique, but there are many progressions on the way there. And then we also work on mobility, so mainly opening up the hips and allowing for freedom of movement coming from our center of gravity. So all of the meridian stretches open the meridians and the chains of tension that connect the whole body together. So each of those 6 meridian stretches are stretching a different chain of tension that's focused on a specific type of movement. So plane of motion like rotation or lateral flexion or frontal flexion. And by doing the 6 meridian stretches, you're essentially irrigating your whole energy system and musculoskeletal system, and allowing any areas where there's proportionately more tension to release that tension. Um, so I like the meridian stretches because I find it's the best bang for your buck. If your buck is a minute and you have a limited amount of time to spend on stretching and flexibility, the meridian stretches kind of lets you take care of that in a very general sense, within 5 or 10 minutes a day. It's the stretching routine that I use every single day. I find it's really easy to kind of take it in and make it a regular, consistent practice. Um, yeah, so I put together a course for that one specifically. But if you've got both of the courses, you can take the meridian stretching sequence and replace the more basic cool down portion of the Ukemi Foundation course with that, so you can practice both together. So the Ukemi Foundations course also includes an element of balancing. So you're learning how to balance a little bit better on your legs when you're walking, when you're standing. That's the first stage of preventing injury, is not falling in the first place. So having balance and single leg strength go hand in hand, because if you can balance and not fall, then you're good. If you do lose balance and you can lower yourself down close to the ground before falling, that's ideal. So all of the conditioning elements in the Ukemi Foundations program is meant to support falling safely, lowering ourselves down to the ground, and preventing injury. All right, so the courses are meant for you to explore them at your own pace, but we also have cohorts a few times a year. So cohort is a period where A bunch of us will work on the course together. So you can pick either one of the courses or both of the courses and start working on them yourself. And as we move through the cohort, we'll be checking in with each other and seeing how it's going. Every 2 weeks, there's a private Zoom live session where you can ask questions about wherever you are in your course, any techniques that you might be stuck on, and I can help clarify things and demonstrate things that you might be having trouble with. So the main thing of the cohort is having support from me. So we have those lives, and we also have a WhatsApp group that you can join, and we have discussions there. But it's mainly for you to just be like, hey, I'm having trouble with this technique. Maybe upload a video, and I'll check it out, see how you're doing, and give you some coaching advice, maybe some tips, maybe show you a progression that you can do if you're stuck on a technique and you need something to get you over to the next side. So there's a lot of support with the cohorts. It lasts for about 6 weeks, and you can kind of, again, still go at it at your own pace. There's no need to show up to even the live sessions. They're recorded, so if the timing doesn't work for you, you can submit questions that you might have beforehand. You can even send me videos and say, hey, can you address this at the live, and I will take note of it and address it. So a lot of support there. Plus, there's other people doing the programs, the courses. You can connect with them in the WhatsApp group and kind of get a little accountability buddy action going there. So the purpose of this of the cohorts is really to help support you in working through the online course stuff. It's a big course, especially the Ukemi Foundations. The Meridian Stretching course is quite a bit smaller and more digestible, but it helps a lot to have a little bit of support, some people to help with accountability, and someone to answer questions about things you might get stuck on. So the cohort is available to anyone who owns one of the courses. This cohort is the second one that I'm doing. So at this point, anyone who has participated in a past cohort is invited to this one. So if you purchase a cohort shortly after, or you purchase a course shortly after, you'll receive an invitation to the cohort. And when it starts, you'll be in. So the next one starts on May 1st. So you might want to get a course now if you don't have one already. If you have one, we'll be having another live session like this in a few weeks, where we will again go through some of the course materials, some of the prep for the course, and answer a few more questions. So if you join and you don't get a chance to ask a question now, or something else comes up, you can ask a question then. So to reiterate, we have the Ukemi Foundations course for injury prevention and learning how to roll and break fall. And we have the Meridian Stretching course, which is really about mobility and flexibility and developing a routine that you can maintain consistently. And we have the cohorts that will be the next one starting May 1st. And if you have an online course, then you will be invited to this cohort. All right, so let's just overview the courses a little bit first. So we have the Ukemi Foundations course, and Ukemi is a funny word. It comes from Japanese martial arts. It comes from a verb in Japanese called ukeru, which means to receive, and the suffix mi pertains to the body. So Ukemi literally translates to receiving the body. So it's about the body receiving the ground. It's different from this feeling of the word break fall, which involves breaking a fall, which feels like there's a conflict there. Whereas receiving the ground feels more like an embrace, more like you're exploring your relationship with the ground. So Ukemi is really about embracing the ground, embracing the fall, embracing this change. We often slip and fall, and then the first thing we think about is stopping the fall. Like, we want to put our hands down, keep our butts from touching the ground, and really just like resisting the reality that we're not standing anymore. But the first step to falling gracefully is being able to adapt to this change in circumstance. You were standing, you were walking, now you're on your way down, and you can either choose to fight against gravity, which is much more powerful than you, or you can go with it and and just kind of enjoy the ride and trust that the ground will catch you. So this is what Ukemi is about. Trusting your body is really about developing the skills of Ukemi to a level that you are confident and comfortable with it. So the purpose of this little tangent is really just conveying this meaning of the word Ukemi as being more of a receptive feeling rather than a resistive feeling. Safe falling is the techniques of break falls and rolls. Break falls are really just a quick transition between standing up and lying down on the ground. We can do backwards, sideways, or forward break fall, where you're either going to end up laying on your back, laying on your side, or laying face down. And that's basically just going to be dependent on which direction you're falling, whether you're falling forward, backwards, or sideways. We use those directions as well when we're looking at rolling. Rolling will involve a little bit more forward momentum. So there's a little bit more of an impact to process. So we're falling and we're rolling and we're translating that downward momentum into forward momentum. So we're falling down, and as we roll, we're capturing this downward force and projecting it forward. And then we're transferring that energy into a different direction. So Ukemi is really good when you're already kind of on your way down, and if there's a lot of forward momentum, a roll can be helpful. If there's a lot of downward momentum and not a lot of forward momentum, a roll might not be quite as appropriate. So having both of those skills in your toolbox, a break fall and a roll, and knowing when each one is most appropriate is really useful when it comes to actualizing Ukemi in real life. So the idea for break fall is really spreading the force of energy throughout a wide area. So if you're falling and you're landing on your butt, all of that force of that fall, all of that momentum is landing into that one point that you're landing on. And a break fall is about laying down and splaying yourself out so that you're spreading that force throughout the whole surface of your body rather than just that one point. It's kind of like if you've ever seen a snowshoe, where it's this big, wide, it looks like a tennis racket, this big, wide shoe that you put your foot on, and it's much bigger than your foot. So if you put your foot in the snow, your foot sinks right in. But if you're wearing the snowshoes and you put your foot on the snow, it stays on the surface of the snow because it's distributing the weight across a wide surface. Break falls work similarly, where we're reducing the impact to us, the foot and the snowshoe, by widening the surface of impact. So rolling is a different mechanism where we're transferring that weight from downward momentum into forward momentum. So those two different techniques are really useful, really helpful for different circumstances. And with them combined with the kind of natural movement conditioning that you develop through some of the other stuff in our program, really sets you up to be able to resist injury when you're having an accident or a fall like that. So this course involves that natural conditioning element as well. And it's really focused on increasing single leg strength, balance, and flexibility in ways that best support the progression of learning break falls and rolls. So if you get stuck, because when we learn our break falls and rolls, we're not just standing up and falling. We're starting from a lying down position, working on the positions and the transitions between those break falls and roll positions. And then we get into sitting and crawling positions. So we practice our break falls and our rolls from sitting in crawling positions. So we're still not actually falling from a height, and we're able to practice the mechanics of these skills without that risk and without that danger. And that gives us a lot of confidence to start getting more proficient in these before we actually start putting ourselves in risk. Once we get to the point where we're putting ourselves in risk, it doesn't feel like risk anymore. After crawling and sitting, we move into kneeling positions and squatting positions. So we do our break falls and rolls from kneeling and squatting. And again, this builds it up. And this, at this point, is very much like a standing break fall or roll. The only difference is when we're standing, we lower ourselves down into our technique. And once we finish lowering ourselves down, we're in essentially a variation of a squatting position. So we want to build up to standing through that progression, and you'll be working through it, and you might get stuck somewhere between two stages and not be able to do a certain technique, or lack the strength or lack the flexibility to do something. And that's what the natural conditioning element in the course is for. If you're stuck on something, you can stay at that stage in the Ukemi aspect of it and keep working on your break, falls, and rolls from say squatting and kneeling until you feel confident enough to try it from standing. And if you need to strengthen your single leg strength and lower yourself down a little bit more before you can do it from standing, then you might want to work on that aspect of the conditioning aspect of the course. So it's meant to carry you through the course, and the natural conditioning element of it is meant to help you get through any bottlenecks that you might feel. And then, of course, if you're in the cohort and the progressions that I'm providing in the course aren't working, you can send me a message and I can give you another progression that you can use, something that might be specified for your specific trouble with that technique. So you don't need to be a martial artist or a parkour practitioner to learn Ukemi. It's not a sports specific practice. It's not something that's just for martial artists, for example. The way that I teach it in the course is meant to build it up, like I was just describing. So doesn't have to be a scary thing. It doesn't have to be super intimidating. It can be very comfortable, and it can be at your own pace. So in a martial arts class, it might be a lot of pressure to take it up to the standing position right at the beginning. That can be a bit of intimidating, but the purpose of this course is to make it accessible to everyone, and by making it accessible to everyone, to allow people who are more attuned to these kind of skills to explore them at a deeper level, because the deeper levels lie in the details of the basics. So the more in a more detail you explore the basics, the more the deeper secrets of the practice are revealed to you. So really exploring it at that deep level and not being so quick to move on to the next stage is really helpful. The course includes, basically the way it works is there are many hours of me teaching directly, little videos of each kind of technique in each stage, where I'm teaching the technique to you, kind of like this, but I'm standing and demonstrating and doing all the things. And then you'll learn the technique from that. And then there are programs in the course. Once you've learned all of the lessons, you can go into the program and you can follow the program. So the program will basically break down, this is your training session for, there's three training sessions for this part of the course, for the phase 1 of Ukemi, and you can work on program 1, and you'll click on that and it'll show you the list of techniques and the number of reps and sets and guide you through your training session. But there are also animated GIFs of each exercise taken from the instructional videos. So if you forget about a movement, you don't have to look through the video again. You can just see that short little animated GIF that has just the technique, and you get a good reminder. And then if you still don't remember the technique, you probably have to digest the lesson a little bit more. But the idea is watch the lessons, do the programs until you feel comfortable with those skills, and then move on to the next phase. And then at the end of the course, there's an end game, there's an end course section that basically has programs that are for people who've completed the whole course, learned all the techniques that really connect everything and tie everything together. So once you're finished with the course, there's resources for you to continue your practice and continue to develop from where you left off. So there's also some more kind of bonus content in the course. There's a hanging tutorial. Hanging is really beneficial for shoulder mobility. It helped me through a lot of problems in my past. So there's a segment about that. So if you have any shoulder tension or any issues you're trying to work towards, that would be a good one to play with. There's also a dive roll course close to the end. So once you've kind of explored all the rolls, you're comfortable with rolling from standing, then you can explore an introduction to dive rolls, which takes everything you learn and brings it up a notch. So it's not for everybody, but that's why it's bonus content. So basically that's how it goes with the Ukemi Foundations program. For the Meridian Stretching course, it's a lot smaller than the Ukemi Foundations program. And again, there's lessons to teach each of the Meridian stretches in deep detail. I break down both the beginner variations and the full version of the stretch. And then there are also videos that go through the Meridian stretching sequence that you can follow along to and just practice along with the video. These ones, there's not as much talking and not as much stopping, and it more reflects the natural pace of how a Meridian stretching segment might go. And that includes both the beginner variations, one for the beginner variations, and a separate video for the more full advanced variations. So the idea is you should start with the beginner variations, and then you should start to explore the advanced ones. And the full versions, some of the Meridian stretches, you're going to be able to do the full versions right away. And some of the Meridian stretches, you're going to have to stick with the beginner variations for a while. And if you can get into the full versions, but it's a strain, you're going to benefit more from doing the beginner variations. So don't rush, and make sure you're picking the variation that suits you best for each stretch. If you're doing, I'm going to do the full version of the stretches, it doesn't have to be every single one of the stretches in the full version. You can slowly add stretches as they become more accessible to you. So it's really, that course is really helpful for things if you have back pain, if you have hip mobility issues, general tension in your body. You get a lot of I've seen a lot of people improve their sleep and their digestion by doing the Meridian stretches regularly. There's a lot of processes in the body that are just going to regulate themselves, and I'm not sure how to explain it to you, but it's something that you have to experience for yourself. So the Meridian stretching course also includes a 21-day challenge where you try to do the Meridian stretches every single day for 21 days, and you observe the changes and improvements that happen in your body. If you're doing that, I recommend that you keep a journal. Because some of these are subtle changes that you're not going to notice on a day-to-day, but when you review your journal, you're going to notice, okay, well, my sleep is better, and I'm not like farting as much or bloated as much or something like that. And journal generally how you feel in every aspect of your well-being, because there are some things that are seemingly not connected that are going to be improved by this practice. So Meridian stretching isn't something I made up by myself. It's a system of self-care that was developed by Shizuto Masunaga, who was the founder of Zen Shiatsu therapy. He was a pioneer in the Shiatsu world, and Shiatsu is a form of therapy from Japan that involves thumb and finger pressure, something that I've been practicing for over 2 decades. And his method reintegrated the Eastern medicine, the meridians and the ki and the energy aspect of it into Shiatsu, because before that, Shiatsu had been formatted in order to conform to Western science and medicine in order to be accepted in Japan. It's really interesting because this practice that had a very old traditional kind of background had to conform to modern Western medicine and totally get rid of all of the elements of traditional Eastern medicine that were in the practice. And then a generation later, Shizuto Masunaga reintegrated all of these aspects into it, because he was particularly sensitive in feeling these things. So he could really feel the energy in the body. He reintegrated the aspect of working with the meridians in shiatsu and making shiatsu very unique in its marriage of east and west. So I find it's a very powerful system. The meridian stretches were meant to be a way to essentially irrigate the meridians and allow kind of a balancing effect in the body with minimal time investment. So there are a lot of variations to meridian stretches, but the basic sequence is just 6 stretches. There's 12 meridians in the body, and those 12 meridians are in pairs. So there are 6 pairs of master meridians in the body, and each of these pairs are stimulated by one of the meridian stretches. So by working through the meridian stretches in that particular order, it's like squeezing the toothpaste out of the toothpaste container through by rolling up the bottom rather than squeezing in the middle. So you can really get a really good mobilization through the meridian stretches, and it has a really strong background in Eastern medicine and Western science and anatomy. So the meridians are like an energy, the circulation of energy in the body, but physiologically it has an expression as well. And in our anatomy, it's the fascia, the tendons, and muscles that the energy that's flowing through it, with like the literal physical energy that's flowing through it. So I move my arms like this. It's key. It's energy flowing through the meridians that's making that happen. It's tension. It's tension that's flexing these muscles to make them move. Right. And it's not just this muscle that's moving, it's this entire chain of tension that's activating. And that function is what energy is. It's functional energy, right? So it's a practical thing. It's not some kind of esoteric thing at that level of understanding. So meridian stretching is really about just clearing our functional energy from our body. I like it mainly because it has a strong effect on our body, and it's very brief, easy to do in a short amount of time, and easy to keep up. I could do it before bed in 5 minutes. And then I fall asleep 5 minutes faster. So it's a quick return on investment. So there are some concepts about flexibility and stretching that these are negative things. So it's I wouldn't say they're misconceptions, but it's an exaggerated exploitation of a fact. So the fact is that excessive passive stretching in before intense physical activity can create some instability in a joint. So if you're holding a stretch for longer than 45 seconds, before 45 seconds, your muscle fibrils are resisting the stretch to protect the joint. And then after about 45 seconds, the Golgi tendon organ comes onto the scene and reevaluates everything and decides if this is safe or not, and then relaxes you into more accessibility to your range of motion. So if you're holding a passive stretch for a long time, you have this reevaluation take place. Your allowable range of motion becomes more open, which is safe when you're doing something like a passive stretch. But if you jump into doing a sport right after, that joint has a range of motion that it has access to passively, but it doesn't have integrity actively, right? So if you get into that range of motion that you don't have active integrity in, there's more of a risk of an injury, especially when you're doing it quickly with a lot of power and force. So the fact is that passive stretching for like 2 minutes, for like longer than 45 seconds, can be risky directly before physical activity, but it's not inherently bad. Another one of the things that we can think about is active mobilization. So active stretching, if I'm doing a passive stretch, I'm holding my elbow and I'm pulling myself into the stretch. If it's an active stretch, I'm just bringing my arm actively back there, or I might hold it and then let it go and try and hold it there. So that's an active stretch. I'm using my my antagonistic muscles to hold me into the stretch and to stretch the muscles that I'm trying to stretch. So there's a contraction that's going with the stretch. Whereas when I'm doing a passive stretch, there's no contraction happening there. So yes, you can get a deeper stretch, and that might be good in therapeutically to do this passively, especially if you have like a therapist or some other practitioner that's doing something for you, doing a technique for you. But the active stretch is ensuring that you're in a range of motion that you have control over, right? So your active range of motion is still improving your passive flexibility, and there's uncertainty as to whether you can improve passive flexibility more effectively through active mobilization. So the fact is that passive flexibility, so holding stretches for a long time, might not be necessary for improving your flexibility, your passive flexibility. And working on holding stretches for a long time before intense physical activity can create a little bit of instability in the joints during that physical activity, which could be a little bit risky. So what that the point is with that is that it's not bad to do passive flexibility or to hold stretches for a long time, but it might be more effective to do active mobilization, and not necessary to do that. So the fact that stretching and holding stretches for a long time is bad is, again, just a little bit too much of a generalization. So the meridian stretches are actually not passive stretches. We are holding stretches. We're usually holding them for less than a minute, usually for 3 breaths, but you can hold them longer. But the point is, we're not actually doing a passive stretch. It's more of an active stretch with the meridian stretches. So, sorry, I forgot my microphone today, so I'm going to speak up when I'm demonstrating stuff, and hopefully you can hear nice and clearly. So here's one of the meridian stretches, and if I was going into it passively, I would be holding my feet and pulling myself into the stretch, and that would be a passive stretch. And then I'm holding myself here in the stretch and holding my feet and pulling myself into it. So that's a passive stretch, but meridian stretches are more active stretching. So if I want to do this correctly, I'm not going to pull my feet. You might see me put my hands on my feet, but I'm not using it to get me into the stretch. So for this demonstration, I'm not going to hold anything, and I'm really just hinging at the hips and using my core muscle to pull me as deep into the stretch as I can get. And then from there, I'm holding this position, but I'm not pulling myself into that position. If I'm doing something like a passive range hold, which is not standard for meridian stretching, but it is a tool in FRC that we can use in the meridian stretches, I could actually pull myself into the stretch. I'd rather get myself into the stretch naturally using my active motion, and then I could pull myself a little deeper into my passive range, but I'm going to let go and hold myself there. So now I have a deeper access, but I'm holding it actively. So that is a way that we can use active mobility in passive kind of activities like that. The meridian stretches are inherently not passive stretches. I think they work better as active stretches when we're pulling ourselves into it. You could relax into it and hold yourself into the stretch, but I don't think that's effective. And I think that actually engages more compensatory mechanisms than the actual muscles that you're trying to stretch. So you're more likely to be stretching your back than stretching your hip if you're pulling yourself into the meridian stretch. And that creates the opposite effect that we're trying to get with the meridian stretches, because it's really about mobilizing the hips, which means I don't want to round my back when I'm doing my meridian stretches. Like, I'm not talking about here, I'm talking about here. I don't want my meridian stretch to come from this, from bowing from my lower spine. I want it to come from the flexion of my hip. So the ball and socket joint is moving forward. I want my hip to learn that it is responsible for hinging and bending forward. And I want my back to learn that it needs to stop jumping in and becoming involved whenever I want to bend forward like this. So the more I can get out of my hip, the better. So when we're doing the meridian stretches, we're going from our hip. And if we pull, it's going to be harder to go from the hip and more of an invitation to bend from the back. So the meridian stretches are passive stretches. You shouldn't do the passive stretch in order to compensate for a lack of mobility. But if you can get into the full meridian stretch and you want to challenge yourself more, you can use the passive stretch in ways like I demonstrated, doing the passive range hold, or however you want to do it. You can experiment with doing it however you like, but this is what I recommend. All right, so yeah, so again, if you're doing the Ukemi course and the Meridian, if you're doing the Ukemi course, when you're doing the programs, you're going to go through the workouts, and there's a warm-up section, and then there's 3 options for your programs. So basically three workouts to choose from, but the warm-up is the same every time and the cool down is the same every time. So you'll go and do the warm-up, you'll do one of the programs, and then you'll go into the cool down. And the cool down is a mako hole, which is 4 of the meridian stretches done in a very simple way. But if you're doing the meridian stretching program, once you learn the meridian stretches, you can replace the stretches in the cool down with the meridian stretching sequence. And it's just adding 2 extra stretches. But that's a good way to stack the 2 courses together if you're doing both. All right. So I explained the cohort experience. We're gonna have bi-weekly meetings. The first one's gonna be on May 1st as the course starts. The last one's gonna be on the last day. So there will be a total of 4 Zoom live sessions. And again, the cohort will start on May 1st. Again, if you want to join and you haven't gotten a course yet, just go to the website and purchase either the Meridian Stretching or the Ukemi Foundations course. And I'll follow up with an invitation to the cohort within the following days. I have a special offer for people who join this YouTube Live. There is a coupon code. It's only valid for 48 hours, and it'll give you 30% off any or both courses. It's live 30. I'll put it in the chat, all caps, live 30. And so if you, this is going to be valid until April 1st. So if you want to take advantage of it, be sure to get on the website and get one of the courses in the next couple of days. And so that's kind of how you join. Now, let's do a little Q&A. Oh, and the deadline for registration is April 25th. But again, if you get a course now, you're going to get that 30% off. So good incentive. Okay, Q&A. Time for some questions. So if anyone's watching now and has any questions about the courses, the cohort, or anything movement or mobility related, you can put your questions into the chat. I got couple of questions here that were before the live, and I've got a couple little things in the live. So let's start with Shannon's question from earlier was how do we get kids involved in this kind of stuff? I think the best way is to do your practice in front of them. Like once you've done some of, especially the Ukemi stuff, some of the crawling exercises and things like that, where you're rolling on the ground. Like, I mean, you just roll in front of your kid and don't say anything and see if they don't start rolling with you. So it's really easy to get them involved. Approach it with play rather than teaching them something or learning something. I find it helps a lot with kids to just show them something and be like, hey, can you do that? And then they try it and they'll be like, oh, try this. So those are great ways to teach. Another, to introduce kids to it. Another question that Shannon had was about the hanging aspect of the course. So in the hanging bonus section, there are also a few exercises to do with dumbbells after the hanging as part of the routine, because that's not part of the original program and it's bonus content. I didn't have a animated GIF for the weightlifting one that you were asking about, but maybe I'll put some together for you. All right, so more questions we have from Ingrid. Besides doing the Meridian stretches every day, what's the minimum amount I can do to get results? So aside from the Meridian stretches, I think if we're looking at the Ukemi course stuff, I think the lying side roll drill is really good. So that's where you're moving through the different break fall positions in a lying down position. So just do a quick demo. So back break fall, side break fall, forward break fall, and we're just transitioning through these different positions. So you can do these really with the strict adherence to each of these break fall positions, or you can just casually reach to roll over, which might be, I usually warm up with this before doing the break fall specific variations. So you can just kind of roll around, rolling on the ground, and you'll probably find some invitations for pendiculations, which might be rolling a little bit, and I feel like a morning stretch come on, and I just want to go with it. Let yourself lead into it. You might feel a yawn come on, but you can work that into the rolling drill. So that's a really good one for daily practice. I'd really just look at the natural developmental sequence. So how we develop from early childhood to adolescence, meaning starting with lying down, rolling around, getting into crawling and a little bit of shifting our weight, kind of being in a crawling position, shifting a little bit, and then getting into standing. So getting into a squat, some kind of variation of standing up from there, a little bit of single leg balancing, maybe some leg swings, but really just working our way up. But I would say a little bit of natural developmental sequence, Meridian stretches, at least at night before bed, and hanging would be my go-to. I usually do Meridian stretching, some hanging, and some single leg strengthening exercises. And then at some point in the day, I'll roll around on the ground a little bit and do some natural developmental sequence stuff. All right. So next, we have a question from Carolina. says, do you not recommend longer holds with the Meridian stretches before physical activity? I don't recommend longer stretches, the longer holds with the Meridian stretches before physical activity. After, yes. Before, I think just getting into each position is enough. Holding it for a breath or two is enough to get some little adjustments. So that's perfect for before an activity. If I get into each Meridian stretches, like just for example, every time I get into the first Meridian stretch, I get a nice little adjustment in my upper back. But I don't need to hold the stretch for a long time. I just need to get into it. And then with this Meridian stretch, I usually get, especially if I lean back and then come back up, I get a little bit of an adjustment in my hip. And then when I'm doing this stretch, again, I get an adjustment in my hip. When I'm rotating around, sometimes I get a little in my back. So I find before activity, just getting into each one of those positions is enough as a warm-up. After physical activities, longer holds for the Meridian stretches are really great, and it can help down-regulate you as well and get you back into parasympathetic nervous system mode. All right, so that is it for the live stream. If you have any other questions, now's your last chance. Let's just do a quick review. The key takeaways are there's 2 courses available, Ukemi Foundations course, Meridian Stretching course. You can learn more about them at naturalmobility.net, and you can purchase one of the courses. And if you purchase one of the courses, you'll be invited to the cohort that's starting May 1st. We've got the cohort starting May 1st. Deadline for registration is April 25th. If you want to sign up for one of the courses now, I have a coupon code, live30. It's in the chat, and you can get 30% off one of the courses between now and April 1st, which is 48-hour sale. So that's it for today. Again, if you have any questions that come up after the live, send me a message, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.